Okay, today we're going to go over a compass thing within games. So you notice there's this convention in games, and it shows up in a lot of Unreal tutorials, where the compass is kind of like in this little box in the center, right? Which, pans and shows the player direction. It's tied to the camera rotation. This one even shows an objective. It's a pretty good tutorial here. And like even this one, they have a nice stylized UI around the compass. Same thing, lets you kind of pan around, see your bearing. Okay, that makes sense. And this one here also has, a compass. This one's like at an angle, almost like a physical compass. Works pretty well. Give a subscribe. But this can't actually be right, because like if south is here and east is here, like that's 3 degrees on the screen. So like, how do you do that if you want the compass to actually be accurate for all the bearings? So this becomes even more pronounced. I'm going to jump into the game I was trying to replicate here, which is Heavy Gear 2, where they have a compass all the way at the top of the screen. So how does this actually work? So if you notice, I'm facing north, so that makes sense. But if I pan over a little bit, you can see east. And I'm pointing at my screen. But over on the top right, you see the little E. But if you think about it, there's no way that is east, because that's east should be 90 degrees of north. But that's maybe 10 or 15 degrees of field of view. But if I go over to east and turn 90, east is correct. But any bearing outside of the center degree is going to be incorrect. And this becomes even more pronounced. There's like a zoom feature, if I remember. There we go. So we're zoomed in, and there, my squad mates are dying. But you can see how I'm facing east. The compass is like moving. I already see north, even though I'm not facing north yet. And I shouldn't see east. Like, the compass here is the same regardless of whether or not I'm zoomed in. But I'm seeing less of the world when I'm zoomed in, so I should see less of the compass. So let's exit this. And let's show actually how to fix this. And I think that's the real reason why games put it in that box, because in order to make the compass correct to the actual field of view, like this, so notice 45 degrees, I have, I think, a bit less than a 90 degree field of view. It's like 88 degrees or something. You can see I'm only seeing 90 degrees. And notice as I turn, the south marker is still at that kind of similar spot in the world. So notice it's like over that white box right there. And as I turn, it stays over the white box, right? Same with the east, it stays in the same spot. Same with the 45 degree marker between. It kind of stays in the same spot even as you move around a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's like it's trying to stay in the actual same spot. And even if you zoom in, it's still trying to stay in that same spot. You see less of the compass when zoomed in because there's less field of view on your screen. That makes sense. My compass covers 720 degrees, so the things to account, and this is actually drawing from a lot of the compass tutorials I just showed you. It's like a great base, but these are the modifications you have to make to get it to work for full screen to make the actual compass bearings correctly. The issue is not the panning. The image pans correctly. The issue is you have to scale the image correctly relative to how large your screen is and how big the field of view is, because I'll make this kind of more exaggerated. Like, let's just give the image an arbitrary scale. So 1800, let's see what this looks like. So there you go, that looks pretty good. But because the image is scaled wrong, that one's actually, I think I just like guessed correctly. But if I zoom out, yeah, there you go. Notice it's like kind of jumping around. I think I actually guessed a pretty good image relative to my screen. So let's give this like 90, or I think like 40 should do. Yeah, here we go. So it's like scaling there. Now you can kind of more prominently see the problem, where it's like whatever's in the center is correct, but it's not, because the image is scaled wrong. It looks strange because everything relative to the rest of the world other than the thing in the center is not going to be right. So you have to account for the field of view. My image covers 720 compass degrees, so it's basically 2 compasses to fix some tiling issues. So you have to divide that by whatever field of view you have, or you have to get the, I don't divide it, I use a map range. So it's like if it's 90 degrees, I know that I need my compass to scale out to be 8 times larger than the screen. Because if it's 90 degrees, then you know, here, I can visualize this. Like if it's 90 degrees here, that's not 90. Let's do a proper 90. There you go. That's close to 90. Like if this is 90 degrees here, then the image covers 720, which is 8 times larger. So it needs to be 8 times larger past the image so it pans correctly. So that's what this is doing. However, you also need to account for the viewport size and the viewport scale, which are different, because you need the image to be 8 times larger than the viewport, but also account for the scale of the viewport, which is something Unreal does automatically. You might be able to change it, but notice as I scale this up, even though we have it set to, remember we have it set to a fixed size right now, notice the image still scales up and down, and that has to do with the viewport size. That's just something Unreal does with UI, so you have to account for that as well. You basically want to counteract it, so you divide it by the viewport size. When the viewport size is 1, this should basically do nothing, but if it changes, you want to account for that. And then I'll also size the Y because I want a particular ratio of my image. So I know this image looks pretty good at this ratio, so this will just keep how tall the image is in the correct ratio. And then this sets the position. This just pans the camera. This is the thing. This is normal. This part here is what's in the most of the compass tutorials. This part down here and this is what you basically have to add in order to get this to work. Just for the sake of thoroughness, this is just activated on a set timer. This is just a function. I just activate it on start and it pans through the image, which is right at the top here, which I have it centered on the X, and that's the default size. It doesn't actually matter the default size though, because it does get scaled with this node here. Anyway, just a little anecdote about compasses. It's a very niche thing, so I'm not sure a lot of people will care about this, but I had trouble finding information about it, so I'm just trying to put it out there. Catch you later.